Whole house. All right, welcome to this, always hard to know what meeting it is, but this meeting of the Milton Planning Board. It's one of our many during this fiscal year, but exactly how many, I'm not sure. Okay, I'm Alex Whiteside, the chairman, and as is a practice that I approve of, because I usually, in trying to introduce people, get tangled, let people introduce themselves.
Ed Duffy, member.
Michael Kelly, member.
William Clark, Planning Director.
Tim Serwinski, Assistant Town Planner.
Emily Ennis, member.
Brian Furs, member.
That was perfect. We're going to meet again on February 12th, and then on February 26th, and then on March 12th, unless a member has a conflict. And when that happens, we usually are able to find another date. The past minutes got sent out, but they didn't get read. So we're not going to approve any. Yes, Mr. Clark, you look concerned about something.
I want to just make the announcement that Emily Martin won't be here because she is sick, and you don't want her near you. She's got strep, so that's not good. That's one. Two.
Did you fumigate everything before giving it to us?
We did.
Just checking.
Public hearings for the warrant articles that have been submitted that deal with zoning. When do you want to have those? I'm asking.
We're going to that segues into the postponement of the Thayer Nursery hearing until February 12th. So it would seem to me that February 26th might be a good time to do the planning articles that are going to appear in the warrant.
Thank you.
And we'll get copies of this?
Yes. I need to put it in the paper for 2 weeks, so plan it correctly.
And did you put or Emily put in a public hearing for the master plan on the 12th? Do we still want to do that if Thayer's been
I'm still waiting for my copy of the master plan so I can review it.
I'm going to turn that over to
Right.
the town planning office.
Right, exactly. I mean,
Since I have no.
Guilty.
Yeah.
Guilty. I get it.
All right, well, you know.
But I want to make sure members have enough time to review before we start talking.
Anyone else
otherwise.
want is everyone else happy doing it electronically, or would someone else like a hard copy?
I'll give him hard copy.
Hard copy for Ed.
I would say volume 1 is probably the most appropriate for a hard copy. I'm not sure you want all 600 pages.
I
of
don't,
volume
I'm
3.
not going to review the rest.
Okay. Volume 1 is the implementation plan, so that's the one you really want to review. The rest is, volume 2 is technical information, and volume 3 is the public input.
Well, it seems to me that there should be, well, that's right. Why make a lot of hard copies until we know what's going to be in it?
Should we, will you have enough time to review it for the 12th so Bill can post the meeting, or do you want to move it to the 26th? I'm conscious that we're moving Thayer to the 12th, and that will require.
All right, we may, okay, let's do it on the 26th.
Okay, the articles and the master plan on the 26th then.
So I'm not here on the 26th. So if we
But you could,
my input.
you could review it
I can view it in advance.
in
Yeah.
advance and submit your,
I'm happy to do that.
Yeah,
Right.
that would make sense,
That's
because
fine.
we're unlikely to vote anything on the 12th, because that's the first discussion, so that would work.
You're
The 26th.
26th.
I mean,
It's
26th.
fine.
Definitely not
That's-
voting anything on the 12th.
I
All
will
right.
review and submit.
Okay,
for the
okay, that's right. There are probably going to be some changes, and we're going to want to, so it probably will be April.
Okay.
Citizens speak. Any citizens want to address the board on a matter of interest other than the East Milton Theater or the Thayer Nursery? Well, good. I guess that means we're doing our job or something. We have a plan at 27 Brackett Street, or 427 Brackett Street, which will
27.
take a house that's currently not on its own lot, entirely on its own lot, and put it on its lot. Yes, sir. Introduce yourself for the
Michael O'Toole, 27 Brackett Street.
viewing audience. You're being televised and recorded.
Michael O'Toole, 27 Brackett Street. Just trying to square the lot away. Kind of got shortchanged in the, when it was done.
Yeah, you're going to get a parcel of 1,103 square feet so that your deck is, and your building are the proper distance from the side lot line. And your porch is probably a little too close, but we're not going to worry about that, I don't think.
Existing condition.
Existing conditions. And that's, of course, your hunt, if it is too close.
The front porch, yes,
Yeah.
I see, okay.
So, any questions? Mr. Clark?
None.
No questions. Ed?
I move we accept the plan as presented, Mr. Chairman.
All right. We're going to authorize that motion. Let me restate it. The motion is to authorize Mr. Clark to endorse this plan as not requiring subdivision approval on behalf of the board. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. So bring the Mylar to Mr. Clark, and he will endorse it for the board.
You're done.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a nice night.
Now, we get to the report of the town planner. You've got 7 minutes to wrap things up in.
7 minutes, wow. Okay,
Or you could just do the high points. if
that's
7
all I'm going
minutes
to do,
is-
is give you the high points. I'm dealing with issues with the Governor Stoughton and the Pulte property. We actually are working on doing an architectural review of the existing buildings that are out there. We have the DPW's interns helping us with the creating a plan of the existing buildings. We're dealing with the paperwork for the nursery special permit, dealing with the paperwork from the East Milton site plan approval. We had Traffic Commission yesterday, which actually addressed some of the issues that you'll hear about in the presentation from East Milton Theater in a few minutes. Been working on the issue of the potential relocation of the Swift Hat House down in Milton Village. We're dealing with the issues of the Hendry's Building and the demolition for 0 Central Ave. Dealing with the 40B issues with the Hendry's Building and the Randolph Ave apartments that are being proposed. We've been working on the issues of potentially applying for 1.5 land use that we may or may not be able to attain. We're still working on it, so it's still in flux. And that should be enough.
All right, that is enough.
Jim,
Go.
Bill, would you expand a little bit on Conley's down in Central Ave?
The town-owned portion and the Conley-owned portion need an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission. Both the Conleys and the town ask for continuance until we can actually straighten out some of the issues of the stormwater issues down there, the potential tank issue down there, and the issues on how to approach the demolition. I know that there are, with the 40B issue, they had a continued hearing, I think it was last week, that dealt with the continuation of the comprehensive permit hearing. Some of the issues that are missing deal with stormwater, because their engineer came up and said, this is where the water discharges. The peer review person came in, looked at those plans and said, okay, this is where it is. When we went back and looked at it, we came back and said, no, that's not right, because that's not where the stormwater discharges. They have to redo the whole thing. They've been down there TVing the lines, finding out that they don't go in any of the directions that were originally thought. So there will be a whole new stormwater plan developed for that project. It's following those issues, following the demolition that we're all waiting for, but there's issues with.
Thanks, Bill.
All right.
Thank you.
Alex, quick question. Are there any costs associated at this point with the town's analysis of the 1.5%? For the costs associated, town costs associated with the analysis?
My time and Mr. Bishop's time.
Thank you.
Now, the selectmen have, going on to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee, have submitted an article for funding the Affordable Housing Trust with $500,000. And they're asking the planning board whether or not we want to publicly support that and perhaps become a co-sponsor. It seems to me that we need a copy of the article before we can discuss it in too great depth. We probably should discuss it at our next meeting, however, because waiting until our hearing
Would be too late.
would
Yeah.
probably be too late. But we should get that, and we should get the article, and I mean, it's probably very straightforward, $500,000 for the affordable housing.
It's in here.
We have the article. It's on the back of the letter,
That's it?
of the email. That's it, yeah, for that. The details would be in the comment on the warrant.
Well, so everyone has it. Does anyone want to, I guess we should probably, if we're going to endorse it, have a different agenda entry.
Rather than just, yes, we should probably
I
have a
don't
more
think, I
detailed
don't
one.
think that really, it really sets forth exactly what we would do, or what would be proposed.
So you introduced it at this meeting, and we can take it up in more detail on the 12th.
Exactly right, and we do have 50 additional seconds to discuss this, if you would.
I'd like the article to state, somewhat roughly what they're gonna use the money for.
Maybe we should request a selectman to come and address us.
I think that makes a lot of sense, because then we can have a back and forth about it, rather than
And al-
speculating what it is.
I'd also
yeah.
like to find out where the money's coming from and how that affects the town's
I
budget.
think that these are things that we should address.
Yeah.
So inviting a member of the Board of Selectmen to come to our meeting on the 12th.
I
Yeah.
think that that's
Great.
a good plan. All right, now, at 6:45, and we're going to resume a public hearing on site plan approval for 556 Adams Street, which is the site of the former East Milton Theater. And at 7:15, I'm going to interrupt the hearing, and we're going to then continue the Thayer Nursery hearing until February 12th at 6:45, Bill?
6:45.
So that's what we're going to do at 7:15. That should take approximately a minute. So, Ms. McKettrick, why don't you come and tell us what has been going on since we were last here.
Thank you very much. Mary McKettrick, I represent Falcone Properties, and tonight, most of the talking is probably going to be by Greg Morris, our engineer, because many of the questions that you asked last time relate to engineering characteristics of the site. We also have the restaurant designer here, and he's going to show you a little changes and some other design changes to the side of the restaurant that were questions about. But I have also Bob Falcone here tonight, but the plan was, with the board's permission, was to ask Mr. Morris to come up. We're going to put out our plans, and he'll explain to you some small changes, but perhaps important ones, given the questions that were asked, that have been made to the site plan. And he also has specifications for lights and other issues that questions were asked about. So I'd like to turn the I'm sorry? All set? Yep. Okay.
It's fine.
When he's ready.
You can, your presentation includes whomever you wish to have heard. And once the presentation is concluded, we'll take it from there.
Okay, thank you. I will, but not yet.
Not yet.
It's always tough to aim it in two directions at the same time. I apologize.
Is this the plan that we have copies of?
Yes.
Well, then you can probably swing it a little bit towards the people in the audience.
That one there? No, you've seen it now, huh?
Again, for the record, my name is Greg Morris. I'm a registered engineer with Morse Engineering. We did submit a revised set of plans to your board yesterday. I believe you received the package. I just want to run through some of the revisions and changes that we made. Along with the set of plans, we also submitted some additional documentation, some spec sheets, and a cover letter outlining the changes as well. Reviewing the plans themselves, you'll notice that we've specified on the grading and utility plan, which is sheet 4 of the plan set, in the middle of the building, at the back here, we're proposing the use of a pollution control unit. The pollution control unit, we also included specifications for that in the package that we submitted. That is a filtering system that attaches to the vents associated with the kitchen to prevent fumes and exhaust from escaping into the neighborhood. It's an advanced treatment system of the exhaust fumes for the kitchen. We've added specification sheets for the lights. We gave you cut sheets and actual specifications, in addition to sheet 8 of our plan set, which is the photometric plan. If you flip to the photometric plan, you'll see that we have 2 different sets of lights. The lights in the parking lot are mounted at a height of 18 feet, which is in accordance with Section 7H10 of your bylaw, which permits an 18-foot maximum. You'll see their locations are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The most important, though, that you'll notice with this photometric plan is, even though there is not a requirement for light cutout in the commercial zoning district. You'll notice that at the abutting residential houses on Church Street, that we have 0 foot candles of light at those properties with the plans that we've spec'd here. Thirdly, we included some cut sheets and additional information regarding the dumpsters that we're using at the site. We've contacted Troop Waste Management. They have met with the applicant, the Falcones. They've set it up so that trash pickup would be mid-morning. That would not be at 5 o'clock in the morning. It would be a mid-morning delivery or pickup. It would be 2 times a week based off the trash generated from the restaurant. And we've included a wooden stick-built dumpster enclosure. We have some pictures of it in the package we submitted. We also included a picture of the enclosure on the plan set. Sheet 3 of our plan set, which is the actual site layout plan. We've added some additional landscaping, additional screening specifically. Again, along the northern property line, we've specified replacement and extension of an existing wooden stockade fence along the Hines property, and it extends back to the other, the 552 Adams Street LLC property, again, along this northern property line. Parking notes on this plan were also revised. Parking spaces, we have 25 parking spaces in our parking lot. That has not changed since the last time we were here. But what has changed is we went back to the ZBA for our second meeting with them, and they have endorsed our parking numbers for this project. What we've provided is we've provided a total of 64 available parking spaces. Those are made available between this property, which has 25 of the spaces, and we've also mapped out the second property, which is a Falcone-owned property at 4 Franklin Street. We provided a cut sheet to your department, I believe today, showing the striping of the 4 Franklin Street property. You can see it in respect to this. It's located essentially on the same block, well within walking distance of this project. We've specified that we would include the locations of the parking on the menu for the restaurant. We would include it on the website to the restaurant. We would also be putting out sandwich boards to direct people on the sidewalk to the different locations as necessary. Regarding loading and maneuvering of trucks into the site, we've done 2 things. We've provided you with a turning template showing the trash pickup maneuvers onto the site in and out. This is a 10-wheeler front-load trash truck that's coming onto the site. You'll see that it doesn't infringe on the parking spaces. It's able to make the swings in and out of the site. We also met with the fire department. The fire department had no concerns with access to the site either. I just put up the revised architectural rendering that you asked for. You asked for some additional detailing, the architectural elevations, specifically on the east side of the building. The east side is the side facing Church Street. It's at the bottom of this plan. Just not show the audience the bottom of the plan here. It's the revised Church Street elevation. Specifically, you had concerns regarding the windows and kind of the facade treatment. Our designer, Steve Tedisco, who's here, if there's... Sure. Okay. He can probably speak better on this.
From last time we met, there was some concern about these windows here, and we came back to take a look at this spacing, and basically what we did was we have brick in between these windows, so we basically pick up the scale of in terms of windows, the neighborhood windows, of the houses, and so it's more of a residential scale, these windows, instead of one large window. And I've also added a concrete sill at each window. And the windows, there was some concern about the height of the windows. The sill of that window is 12 feet off the finished grade, or off the slab, the interior slab. And the window is 3'6", 42 inches by 42 inches. And there's also there was concern about the ambient light from these windows. Well, all of our lighting in the restaurant would be below that sill line. So the bottom of these pendant lights, more than likely we'll use pendant lights. They'll be about 10 feet off the floor. So we're not really interested in lighting up our ceiling, say, because it will be an exposed ceiling. So all the light will be below that sill line. So there'll be very, very little ambient light coming out of those windows. And there's a door here, and again, there's the service door, and there's an awning and an awning. And we'll put some arborvitaes here. They'll be green year round in front of the brick panels, and also we'll provide sconces on these pilasters that project about 4 inches off the brick facade. So these are the changes we made from our last discussion on that elevation. So, do you have any questions?
How many sconces are you putting in?
The sconces, I don't have the cut sheets with me, but we have we're installing cut sheets.
How many lights?
How many lights?
6.
Sconces? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Lights. If I can answer that question, they're similar to the lights that are being put on the front
They're the
facade of
same.
the building right now. They'd be the exact same.
They're the same lights.
18 inches long. They're 5-sided lights. They're LED, and they actually wall wash. They go up and they go down. They don't protrude out.
And the lights are, I have a dimension there. They're 10 feet. The bottom of that light is 10 feet off finished grade.
Thanks.
Okay?
Great. Mr. Chairman, I was also just given correspondence dated January 15th from one of the abutters. I wasn't sure if I could respond to that. I didn't have time to write a formal response. It was from Gerard E. LaFond, 74 Church Street. He raised 2 concerns that I think are addressed with our revised submittal. I'd just like to give you a response to that.
Why don't you do that?
Okay. Mr. LaFond, it sounds like he had 2 concerns. The first one was with regard to the drainage in the sewer pipes that we have connecting to Church Street. I guess I would offer one point of clarification to him. That is, we are not proposing a drainage connection to Church Street. All of our drainage is handled on-site through the use of a subsurface leaching system. We are not connecting to the drainage system on Church Street. Secondly, Mr. LaFond's letter talked in regards to sewer capacities, and specifically that he was concerned with us overloading the sewer at his house location on Church Street. There's actually a break in the line on Church Street with respect to the direction that the sewer flows. The flow emanating from this restaurant does not go up Church Street toward Mr. LaFond's house. The sewer flow emanating from this site goes out to Church Street and down toward Adams Street. So there should be no concern with backup heading toward Mr. LaFond's property because of the slope of the pipes out in the street. The second one was in regards to a construction management plan. The construction management plan, we did actually submit a full operation and maintenance plan. It's included in our stormwater calculations and report. It documents erosion control. It documents dust mitigation from the site as well. That appeared to be his concern, was dust. He does bring up traffic to the site during construction. We would certainly be amenable for hiring a detail and obviously a curb cut permit and a street opening permit and whatever requirements the DPW has with those when we do the work in the street. Primarily, though, all of the work will be off of the street, and we would be having our deliveries in our construction on the private lot itself. So I would refer you to the existing documents that we submitted with the original submittal for the O&M plan.
Well, he probably is also concerned about the demolition that you're going to be doing of the two houses that are there.
Yeah, so those require a demolition permit with the building department. We would be required to file for that. The demolition, you know, we do have some notes that anything would be brought off-site for disposal. And again, a demolition permit overseen by your building department would be required for that work. I think the revised plans we submitted, I think we addressed all of the outstanding questions and comments that you had, and gave you everything that you were looking for with the submittal. I could certainly walk through the bylaw sections A through F. If you want, we could review those one last time. If you have any additional questions, I could answer them.
Why don't you do that?
Okay. So, your bylaw, specifically section 8.8D3, has conditions A through F that must be met with a site plan application. Condition A is that protection of adjoining premises is against detrimental or offensive uses. With this application, we've documented that a restaurant is an allowed use in this business zoning district. We don't consider that to be detrimental or offensive. I would further point out that the master plan that was just published in December promotes the redevelopment of this site, and it specifically states that redevelopment of this site should be as a restaurant proposal. I direct you to page, I believe it's 150 of the master plan. B is convenience and safety of vehicular and pedestrian movement within the site in relation to adjacent streets, property, and improvements. Our site plan documents how we're going to mitigate pedestrian and vehicular access. Pedestrian access is managed along Adams Street by an existing sidewalk. It's managed along Church Street by an existing sidewalk. But furthermore, the Falcones in their proposal are proposing to redo the sidewalk along Adams Street and bring it into ADA compliance, which it currently is not, as well as replace sidewalk along Church Street along these frontages. On their property, they're proposing a new sidewalk, and they're also proposing to bring the existing entrances along Adams Street as well as the new entrances into the site into ADA compliance. Vehicular access, we're utilizing the two existing curb cuts. We're utilizing public roadways that have been in existence that have right-of-way widths of 40 feet to 60 feet in width. They are certainly of adequate width, grade, and character for access to a site such as this. Section C of the bylaw, adequacy of methods of disposal for sewage, refuse, and other wastes from the uses permitted on the site, and methods for drainage of surface water. Sheet 4, which is our grading and utility plan, documents compliance with that requirement. It documents that specifically for the disposal of sewage, we're using a new sewer line, municipal sewer, out to Church Street. The building is already serviced by municipal sewer. We're also adding 2 new municipal water service connections. Again, the building is already serviced by municipal water. On-site drainage is proposed, where right now there is only 2 leaching catch basins on the site. It provides absolutely no treatment of the water and very limited infiltration of the water. We're proposing a fully compliant DEP stormwater management system that has a deep sump-hooded catch basin, it has a particle separator, and promotes subsurface infiltration through the use of subsurface chambers under the parking lot. Refuse for the site, again with our dumpster. We're providing a dumpster. We're also providing grease traps on the site that would be regularly maintained. We've already talked with Troop Waste Management regarding the dumpster. We've enclosed it in a pad. It is secure from the top and all sides. D of your bylaw requires space for off-street loading and unloading of vehicles, goods, products, materials. what we've proposed is we've proposed to manage the parking lot in such a way that our deliveries are being delivered in the morning when the restaurant is not open. The parking lot would be a manned parking lot. We would have, we would have available all of the spaces that you see. You would also note that access to the site with our turning templates shows that you have adequate access onto the site. Once you're in the parking lot, there is more than adequate room for vehicles to maneuver. The bylaw specifically requires in a parking lot, it requires a minimum of a 12-foot aisleway for one-way traffic. We're providing a minimum of at least 20 feet in aisle width for all of our traffic through the site.
Could you just address quickly on the turning template, when we get off topic, saying access for vehicles? I assume that the 10-foot vehicle is the outside limit. You're not talking as far as what can access the site successfully?
The vehicle that we chose is 40 feet in length.
40 feet, okay, thank you.
Yep.
What's the width of the pavement on Church Street?
40 feet.
The right-of-way is 40 feet. The actual pavement is either 24 or 25.
And the same would be true with Bassett Street?
I don't have the width on Bassett Street. The requirement for one-way, which I believe Bassett is a minimum of 12. I know it's at least 12.
Okay?
The last two sections are relatively quick. Section E is that the applicant needs to document proper use of the site with respect to unit density and proximity of adjacent buildings to each other. We would make a statement that we're not proposing any new buildings here. We're using the existing building at the setbacks that has always existed at, and the density is no more dense than what currently exists. We're not adding units with this proposal. The density is certainly in conformance with the bylaw. In condition F, the adequacy of lighting to maintain a safe level of illumination on the site, and whether lighting is properly shielded to protect adjacent properties. The photometric plan, as I stated, shows 0-foot candles or light cutoff at all of the residential abutting structures, and that's with the lights fully on in all of their conditions. We've also specified that the lights will be equipped with shields, adjustable shields. That is not taken into account with our photometric plan, so they're subject to even further refinement.
Now, on headlight light, have you given any attention to that?
We have. What we provided in our documentation yesterday is we provided a picture along Church Street, and I'm going to flip to that picture. I have it on a blown-up scale here. This picture at the top, the picture at the top right of the screen of Church Street. I personally went out, I took a couple of measurements, and what you'll notice is that the building that was brought up from the abutters is this building here. I want to say it's 566 Adams. I may be wrong with the address, but it's the building directly across the street from our exit point. And the concern is that headlights would be shining on that building. You can see this picture here. What I did is I went out, I took the measurement. The windowsills on that building are 78 inches off the ground. That's above my head. And what you'll notice, you'll see that there's a man standing here. You'll see an SUV. The windows on that side of the street are significantly higher than the headlights. So what we did is we took the elevation of the ground surface at our exit point, and we went up 41 inches to a headlight height. 41 inches is a relatively large vehicle, a Suburban or an SUV type. And the elevation of the headlights compared to the elevation of the windowsill, the elevation of the headlights is 3 feet below the windowsill. The headlights themselves, the focal point, what we did is we pulled the registry of motor vehicles information. Headlights are supposed to be straight ahead or in a downward position. I'm not saying that you won't get light spillover up to those windows, but the lights won't be focused on those windows by any means with this proposal. I would also note that all of the windows on that house are equipped with blinds. They are equipped with curtains. They were all closed in the middle of the day. And if the board feels that it is necessary, I think the applicant would be willing to consider installing some landscape if the board thought it was necessary at that location.
Okay. What about that one's right across the street as you're exiting the premises, the parking lot, and you sign across Church Street? What do you have there?
The one at the corner of Mechanic Street. Yep. That one is going to get the same light that it gets on it right now because it's already getting all of the light coming down Church Street.
These are Church Street houses.
No, not Mechanic Street. There's two
Which-
houses.
The Church Street houses, as you exit the parking lot, the cars will be facing
You just-
across the way at the houses.
This one. That's the one at the corner of, isn't it Mechanic?
That's the one he was talking about on
Mechanic and
Adams.
Adams?
It's on,
That's one
it
we're talking
addresses
about.
Adams Street, but its side is.
Yeah. That's the one I'm talking about. This house right here, which is hers. You're right, it fronts on Church Street. It has an Adams Street address.
I thought there were a couple of houses
No, it's one
right in the
larger
middle of
house.
the block.
No, because the other one has,
Right there.
It's
9 Church Street, and it's my house and this house.
These two.
those ones up top.
When you exit that way, it doesn't affect this house, it only affects this house, and that's what he just gave you the information.
Okay.
Not he-
And
that-
these
that-
two, and you're saying it doesn't affect
no,
us.
you Go in this way.
Got it. Okay. Anything else?
No, I can summarize again, each of the points. I thought that there might be more questions and.
What
you'd
we're going to
wanna
do
wait.
is we're going to go right to the public, and we're going to get comments, and if they have questions for you, they can ask you. And you're going to give way so that they can come and sit at the table and be heard. And then if they ask a question, whoever it is answering will have to come up to the table also. Ed, do you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Last night, I was here for a traffic commission hearing. I sat in this seat, and I was told I was in the wrong seat, but I stayed here because I wasn't a member of the board. I should have been out there. Anyways, the one particular hearing was the hearing regarding Ryan Steel, is that what they call it? Steel and Rye. Steel and Rye down in Milton Law Mills on Elliott Street. That was it is a very popular restaurant. It was been down there 2 or 3 years. We held hearings on it. We demanded traffic studies, so on and so forth. But some neighbors from Morton Street came in. They did all the homework, as you've done such a great job at doing. All the homework was done. However, a neighbor came in, and she's unhappy now on Morton Street. The cars are flooding her street. Everything was done perfectly by the book 3 or 4 years ago, but she's getting croaked. Just a few houses up on Morton Road. They're getting croaked with traffic and parking and so on and so on and so on. So smooth presentations are wonderful, and all the props and so on and so forth. The reality is, in Ryan Steel, it didn't quite work, and some of the neighbors are getting clobbered. I just want to point that out, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Thank
now,
you.
but a good segue, I think, Mr. Clark, you should report on the Traffic Commission's doings with respect to this application.
I'd like to have Chief Wills come up, since he's the chairman of the Traffic Commission, and, you know, one, respond to Mr. Duffy's comment, and two, you know, give the overview of what we discussed yesterday at the Traffic Commission.
What could be better than that?
Me not being here. I guess I got here just in time.
You did.
My father used to say that when he retired as chief in 1992, that he was going to buy a hot dogs cart and sell hot dogs outside of popular town meetings. This would be one of them. He probably would have made some money. Well, thank you. Good evening. This is only my second time in 8 years as chief that I'm before the planning board, so I view this as serious. But I have to begin by taking exception to what Mr. Duffy just said. That's not what happened at all yesterday. We did not have a hearing. We had a regularly scheduled Traffic Commission meeting. The way the Traffic Commission runs is anyone who wants to file an issue to deal with us, it's only one resident dealing with one house on Morton Street. We've had relatively minimal problems at all in that area. And really the only thing that we want to address with Steel and Rye is to have them perhaps develop a relationship with, I call it Osco's, but it's not, the Rite Aid on River Street, to move some of their valet parking over there, because it is Brook Hill Road. But Morton Road and Morton Hill Road is really not a problem for us. The resident who came, she came at my invitation. I asked her to come, but, and Mr. Duffy, I take exception, I've known you my whole life. No one's getting croaked down there, and it's not, it's really not what's going on. The number of issues that we deal down there, I'll be very honest, these 3 restaurants, 88 Wharf, Abbey Park, and Steel and Rye, all came within my first 2 years as chief. They were very new ventures for our community, with all the things, everything from parking to outside dining, things that as a police chief, not so much from a traffic perspective, that I thought I might have concerns with, we've really had minimal concerns with. I mean, isn't any, we have more calls to Milton Hospital, Curry College than we do to the 3 licensed establishments in the town of Milton. So I just want to be clear on that. I didn't know that I was going to be here for that, but I felt they had to set the record right, because it was not, it was just one resident who we invited. And we constantly tweak traffic anyway in parking regulation. Anyone who looks at the recommendations we make to the Board of Selectmen on parking, particularly congestion, gridlock issues in the town, constantly, it's all the time. So yeah, I would not view the issue that we're dealing with on Morton Road as anyone getting croaked, or as that Steel and Rye working there as an establishment within the town, not working. That's very incorrect, and I had to clear that. So now, with regard to yesterday.
Okay, one second. We're going to suspend this hearing momentarily.
Can I leave?
Wait, no,
Just for 1 minute.
we're going to open the Thayer Nursery hearing, and we're going to continue the Thayer Nursery hearing until February 12th at 6:45. So continue. And now that hearing has been continued. We're going to resume the hearing that we were just in.
Good thing you did that, because I don't have any answers to any questions about their nursery, if you're going to ask me that. So, just to give you a little bit of a preview, as you know, the East Milton Square is an evolving situation right now. The implementation of the Howard Stein Hudson report, as well as the recommendations that they've made, traffic concerns that we have, and obviously the application that you have. So from a traffic perspective, within the 3 business districts, East Milton, I'm going to talk about 2 issues. First is going to be loading zones. Second is going to be valet, that fall within the parameters of either Chapter 85 or Chapter 9, the rules of the highway, things that we, the police department, would enforce or regulate. So with regard to loading zones, Central Ave Business District has been brought forth first. It was brought about 6 months ago by John Thompson, who's the town, because as part of the Master Works plan, the businesses that exist on Central Ave in the Business District, curbside deliveries, which have been taking place for years, are going to be no longer. So we have taken some regulations from the City of Boston and the City of Cambridge, and we've begun to develop a draft to vote on in March and to send to the Board of Selectmen for approval in the town of Milton. And in that, we would be recommending 2 loading zones, one for East Milton Square, which would be on Adams Street between Franklin Street and Church Street, and one on Central Avenue for the Central Ave Business District, actually on Elliott Street at the corner of Brook Hill Road, which would be between Brook Hill Road and Morton Street. Now let me give you a little bit of rationale on that. One of the things I've said to the residents from this neighborhood who've called me, and I have to be very specific and clear, is that this is a neighborhood that I grew up in, my mother still lives in. Clearly, my feeling, the feeling of the commission was we wanted to do everything we could to remove any trucks from the abutting streets, specifically Church Street, Bassett Street, Franklin Street. Right now, for the businesses that are Granite Avenue North between Adams Court and Bassett Street, many of them use Adams Court to make their deliveries because they have rear entries. From what we've looked at a lot of the businesses between Adams Court and Church Places, they go onto Franklin Street, they go onto Church Street, and they do it illegally. So our proposal, and the only reason we didn't vote it yesterday, is John Thompson wants to just take this up and match it up with the Howard Stein Hudson report and make sure that this is the best possible thing, is that in looking at Starbucks, the front of Starbucks, at the corner of Franklin backing up to the Adams Street, that was a cab stand initially. About 15 years ago, it became a bus stop. About 7 years ago, or 8 years ago, we moved the bus stop from Franklin and Adams back up to Church and Adams where it exists today. We intend to take those 3 spaces and convert those 3 spaces into a loading zone that would be in effect from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday. The loading zone would also have regulations with time limits and who could use them, and we would enforce it aggressively just as we would any other regulation within the town, that, you know, overnight parking, time parking, any of that. For East Milton, we then would take those same exact 3 spaces from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., and they would be valet spaces for valet parking, controlled and regulated by the town. Within our regulation, we also would create a valet permit system similar to the service zone system that exists now, and similar to the hardship parking permit system that exists within the town, that ordinance. We originally had thought about taking just 2 spaces, but the fact that you're going to use 2 restaurants and the number of total seating, we just kind of looked at what Boston uses. We felt 3 spaces was better for the loading zone, given some of the trucks that these take. And we were really adamant about that we want to get any trucks off of Franklin and off of Church. The only exception would be trash, because they're entitled to have trash pickup. They're entitled to have trash pickup. All of them are, just as a house would. So, and it's the same size trash truck. So, but we want to, and we would ask the chamber and all these businesses, because this would be their designated loading zone, to regulate their. I mean, it's giving them 7-3. It's giving them 10 hours a day, 6 days a week for deliveries. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time. The final issue with regarding the abutting roadways, there are 2 things that we want to look at. We are considering making Church Street between Bassett and Adams, which is currently a do not enter from Adams onto Church. We're considering making it either a one-way or another do not enter to defeat any loop traffic from looping around. So even if you went down, say, Franklin Street and cut across back and wanted to come back, as people do to them now, they will no longer be able to do this. So we didn't vote on that yesterday, but we're going to have to figure out which is better, a do not enter or a one-way, which one's going to work better for us. But that's something that we want to do to try and alleviate the cut-through loop traffic. But we do think that by creating a loading zone and utilizing it as doubling it as a valet, the same 3 spaces in the square, you can service all the businesses between Adams Court and Church Place, you take the trucks that are currently, and we tag, we see, it even in the GIS pictures we were using yesterday, we found a truck delivering to Starbucks in the picture on Franklin Street. We take it all away. The final thing about Starbucks is, in watching Starbucks, most of the people that go to Starbucks, because they have their own parking, park in the back and go in the back door. So those 3 spaces aren't really critical to their operation. That was my first thought, because they're right at the front door, and there was some discussion amongst us on the Traffic Commission about this, that because Starbucks has its back door entrance in its own parking lot, it's really not going to have a significant impact on them. The only other things that there'd be some parameters within the ordinance for valet parking, because in Boston, there's some things like a hospital can have a valet, things like that. Milton may want, but we don't really want to get into that. We want it really strict just on valets in a public way. But we think that this model will definitely alleviate the situation in the square, both for deliveries and the impact it has on this neighborhood now, both on Church Street and Franklin Street, as well as the cut-through loop-around traffic and the valet. The one thing that John Thompson, he just wants to figure the best way as far as moving the valet around without it having, we don't want it to impact the neighborhood. The final thing that we said, because I heard some things about that 25 parking lot, and Mr. Falcone's assured me they had no intention to use that as a valet lot, and we didn't want that either. So that's really up to you about that. Our concern was really the roadway and the valet spaces on the road and creating them. But we intend to have this drafted, voted on, and to the Board of Selectmen by the first week of March.
Now, tell me about the Church Street, the Franklin Bassett Church loop, and how you defeat that. Do you make Church one way going in, or?
So there's several things that we could do. It's already do not enter going in. You can't go in.
I understand that.
So then the question is, do we make it one-way local traffic only at Bassett, and which we could do. We could make it, do it into local traffic only going in there. We just haven't figured out the exact wording of which statute we want to do it under, but we want to come up with an idea to defeat that, and I think there is a way that we could do that. Because we talked originally about just doing it Duggan Lane, and then many of the members, we needed a cross street, and Bassett Street's the cross street to do it at. So I'm not exactly sure how we're going to, John's the engineer, so it's up to him to go back and figure the exact restriction that we put in place or recommend or vote on. So that's kind of in his lap right now. That actually came from you or from him? That was brought up at our meeting prior to yesterday, just in an engineering meeting. We were talking about layout and flow in the square. The final thing that I will say, not related to this, about just for these neighbors who are here, one of the things that, and I talked to Mr. LaFond, one of the things, and I said to him, as chief, anyway, my concern was alleviating traffic in that neighborhood. There is legislation currently in the State House right now. I have not seen the final draft, but it's something we've been waiting for a long time. I can't believe is that it's going to allow cities and towns that have certain 30-mile-an-hour restrictions, being the lowest that you can, to drop those speed limits to 25. And we believe, while it has not been passed yet, that both Church Street and Franklin Street would fall into that 25-mile-an-hour reduction. So that's something unrelated to you and not something you would want, but we feel that we'd want. We understand, I mean, as chief, you didn't have to spend any longer in East Milton Square than the 4 hours at the protest the other day to see that, anytime you get a hiccup at all of any type, and it's part of the reason why they chose where they chose and why they deployed the barrels where they put them, was that the East Milton corridor, the whole, as we call the 93 corridor between exit 9 and exit 11, with any interruption at all, can completely gridlock East Milton, West Quincy, and going all the way to Bergen Parkway, and then on Route 3 it extended all the way down to Route 20. So we've been very cognizant of this. I do, and I'll say it again, I've said it to the selectmen, I'm not an engineer, but growing up in that square and being there and going there all the time just looking at it, I do believe that these recommendations, plus what is going to come out of the changes from Howard Stein Hudson, are going to be a dramatic improvement in East Milton Square. I really do. The final thing, too, that we did talk about, we do think if this restaurant does open, Mr. Lynch brought this up, the DPW director, that we may look to put a pedestrian signal light somewhere at Franklin and Adams in that area. I don't know where it would be exactly, but if you look at how the square is laid out now with the only two crosswalks, one being all the way up at Granite Adams and the other one being at Church Street, it would warrant that, and the only way to safely do it would be to do it with a pedestrian crossing. So I know I just gave you a lot, but we realize this is a big thing, and right now, the change and the evolving of East Milton Square, I just feel if we're going to do it, we need to try and do it correctly.
Mr. Duffy?
Mr. Chairman, Chief Wells,
Yes, Mr.
how are you, Richard?
Good.
I have a great concern about the cut-through traffic existing now on Brackett and Granite Place. I think some of your suggestions are just going to push the cut-through
No.
up to Washington, Brackett, Granite Place, Belcher, and come in back way. Otherwise, they can't get in Church. Sometimes they're not going to be able to get in.
But they can't get in church now.
Yeah,
The
and I
church is
just-
already restricted.
Yeah, and Franklin Street, sometimes it's so clogged with traffic on both, trucks on both sides of the street, a big truck will not be able to get in, so it'll have to go all the way around the loop, past Brugger's, onto Bassett and so forth, and work his way towards the the proposed restaurant.
He can't, because he won't be able to loop up to Church Street.
You can get found out.
No, because the way we picked it, Franklin Street's already north of the loading zone. So to defeat the cut-through traffic from impacting these neighborhoods, that's where you put in either a one-way or do not enter at Church and Bassett. So, and I mean, I know it hasn't happened yet, but if you do approve this that defeats valets from doing it, that defeats people from working for parking space from doing it, so it's just, I don't know, we have to think about it, because there's also gonna be a parking lot, so we have to think about how we do this.
Oh, if you tighten it up down there, you're gonna push a lot of it, you know what it's like now with the cut-through traffic. This is gonna put a lot of more commercial cut-through traffic.
I don't think so.
On Granite.
I don't think so. I really,
You
I'm not. And I'm gonna give you just this one change. If anyone's been to the square, the most significant improvement that we've done, and it was Joe Lynch's idea, not mine, that has had the greatest effect on that neighborhood was adding the double turning lane at Granite and Adams. And if you stand there any day and watch the number of cars that now choose to stay on Adams versus turning right on Granite Place, Washington, or Franklin, it's significant, because they know that that double flow is going to get them. It keeps them from having to go in left, right, left, right. If a commuter can stay on a road and go straight and it's going to move, they're going to do it. And from a traffic flow perspective, it's incumbent upon us to try and do everything we can to ensure that. The final thing about the city that you don't realize is, and I think you do know this because you've heard it in other traffic meetings, right now, the traffic lights in the square are so archaic that they do not talk to one another. Only a couple of them do. But Church and Adams definitely does not talk to anything else. In the new system, it will. And it's going to help you keep that, I mean, we've been working on this for 5 years to try and get this to where it's going to become operational and make it functional. I don't see that. I will say this to you, if that did become the case, I don't think would be, objecting to going back to look to restrict that. We've talked about that anyway in the past. We already do restricted, I think, all the streets off of Beale, Rockwell Place, Eaton, all have mornings 7 and 9. Just do not enter restrictions to avoid that cut through. But if it had to get to Washington and Granite Place, we would look at that. We're not, for the same reason that some of the things we just told you here were to accomplish two things: A, to help what you're trying to deal with here with regard to the valley and the loading zones, but B, more importantly, to try and minimize the impact on the people that live there. So, go ahead.
Another question.
I would just like to point out, Mr. Chairman, that this whole proposal we're talking about this whole entire proposal without a traffic study. And I think this board has a history of requiring a traffic study for projects such as this, and we pick the vendor, and the applicant pays the fee. So I think before tonight is out, we should vote on having a traffic study, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, now what we're going to do, that's an issue which we can consider. It seems to me that some people here might have questions for the chief, and we don't necessarily want the chief to be here. We'd love to have you here all night, but why don't...
I have a question for the chief, please. Mr. Chair. Chief Wells, just to clarify, you were pointing out that there is a parking lot here on Church Street. So there's gonna be an effort made to allow, how will customers get to that lot?
Yeah, so that's the one thing, we'd have to look at how we do this. So how, you don't wanna block that lot completely.
Right.
So, but it did come up, and we've talked about somehow doing some type of restriction, whether, you say, John's the engineer on this issue, he's the one who has to come up and, we may not be able to, but we at least, it's incumbent upon us to look at it. I think we need to look at it.
Is there width, I can't on the scale with me, there's not width to get in and out, get cars up to the lot and back out at Franklin, right? To just have the one-way start at the exit point, so to speak.
So have Church Street two ways
Until
off
you
of
get to the
Adams
exit.
until you get to the far side of this
Yeah,
property.
I can't see if you've got the 24 feet you'd need there.
Well, you could possibly make Church Street one-way just to pull into the parking lot, but then it's a do not enter. So
So
you come
flip the
in,
direction of Church
you
Street.
could come in, go in the parking lot, and then you have to go out the same way. So the only way in and out is Adams Street.
That's,
That's a possibility. That's a legal thing we could do. If you've
That's
never
kind
been
of
on
what
Minot
I'm
Street.
That's what
suggesting, right?
Yeah, if
that's
you
what I'm
have
suggesting.
Minot Street in Dorchester, so if you go to the Minot Village, you take a right on Minot Street, you can go Bass, Gerard's, Blasi's, you can only go a little bit farther, and it becomes a do not enter, you have to take a right.
Right.
So we could, I don't know, as I say, I don't know what John will come up with, it may be that. That is a dual benefit for the first house or the second house, because they could then access their driveway both ways, they can pull in from Adams. But I would think, even if we did that, I would see it no further than the entrance
I agree
access
with
to
that.
the
Yeah.
driveway.
Yep, I agree
It
with
almost
that.
makes it like a turnaround, like a,
Right.
just like an in and
Right.
out.
Right, that's what
It
I'm.
keeps it out of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it definitely keeps people from looping around onto Church Street and coming up, which is what they'd have to do now,
the
so,
restaurant maintained the second one as the entrance still.
yeah,
First one coming off of Adams as the exit.
yeah, yeah, that could work out well.
Yep.
I mean, you have to study the implications, obviously, and
Right.
as you say, get the engineer involved,
I
but that's
thought
an interesting
That
idea.
all along, because if people are gonna try to get to this parking lot,
Well, yeah,
rather than fighting through the neighborhood, and if they don't know the neighborhood, they'll be all over
right,
the place.
exactly.
And like we've always said, if they get into the neighborhood, and there's a parking spot over here on the street,
Right,
and this parking lot's full, they're probably liable to
but if they know they're coming
Legally
straight in.